Shriye Namo, Shriye Namo, Namah Shriye Soha. Om Namo Shriye Namo, Shriye Namo, Namah Shriye Soha. Om Namo Shriye Namo, Shriye Namo, Namah Shriye Soha. So welcome everyone. We're glad you could join us tonight for the Vesak celebration. We've had a little change in schedule. Venerable Thubten was to come and give a talk. She may or may not come a little bit later. We'll see what happens. But we'll continue with our practice of the Shakyamuni Buddha puja. And just start by taking a few deep breaths, settling into the space, focusing on our breath to bring ourselves fully present to this activity. Let go of any rushing or any other activities you've been involved in earlier today. And today is a very good day to reflect on how fortunate we are that the Buddha has appeared in this world and turned the wheel of Dharma. And not only that, but the teachings remain. They're still being practiced. They're still being taught in their pure form. And we are so fortunate that we have met with the Buddha Dharma and that it influences our lives. It influences our thoughts and our actions. And so the Buddha Dharma may be something that we take for granted, that it will always be there, always be available. But just reflect for a moment how fast things have changed in the last year and a half. Things are constantly changing. Our world is constantly changing. And we don't know what's going to happen today or tomorrow or next week, next month, next year. The only moment we have to practice is right now. And so let's bring ourselves fully present to engage in the Shakyamuni Buddha practice. Also just reflecting how fortunate we are that we not only are human beings in this lifetime among the other almost 8 billion human beings on this planet, but out of all those beings, how many of them have met with the Dharma, and especially the Mahayana Dharma? And of those who consider themselves Buddhists, how many are sincerely practicing, really turning their minds? How many of them have met with qualified teachers like His Holiness the Dalai Lama, our own teacher here, our abbess, Venerable Chödrön? And even if we've met these qualified teachers, how sincerely are we applying the teachings? How stable is our refuge? How resolute is our intention to embody ethical conduct, concentration, and wisdom? So we've all received a lot of teachings, I can imagine. We've all received a lot of teachings on bodhicitta and the importance of bodhicitta in our practice. And so tonight, let's generate a strong heart of bodhicitta, aspiration to achieve full awakening for the benefit of all living beings in celebration of the Buddha's birth and awakening, full awakening, and parinirvana. I think there's nothing that would please the Buddhas more than for each of us to take a few moments to cultivate a heart of bodhicitta. So just reflecting how all beings like ourselves are controlled by karma and afflictions. And when our mind is strongly overpowered by those afflictions, we generate non-virtue, unskillful actions of body, speech, and mind. And as we know too well from our own life experience, when our mind is controlled by
karma and afflictions, we create actions, and those actions bring results, both now and they also plant seeds for the future. And so, just like we're in this situation, all beings, all sentient beings are in this situation along with us, all of us bobbing in the ocean of cyclic existence, overpowered by waves of afflictions and contaminated karmas. And the fact is that all these beings have been incredibly kind to us in countless lives when they've played the role of our parents, our mothers, our fathers, as well as every other relationship, demonstrating kindness in so many different ways. And so when we focus on that reality, our interdependence with every other living being, that we've all been very close, very dear to each other, then naturally a wish to benefit those beings arises in our mind. So reflecting on the kindness of others in countless ways throughout all of this life and all of our previous lives, just reflect for a moment. How wonderful if all these beings had happiness and the causes of happiness. Reflecting on those who appear as friends and family in this life, although also those who appear as strangers. We don't remember our connections with them from previous lives. And also those beings we currently find challenging, difficult, upsetting in some way, distasteful. How wonderful if all of these beings equally had deep, abiding Dharma happiness. How wonderful if all these beings were free of suffering, all the various levels of suffering and their causes. Friends, strangers, difficult people. And if we stop to check what's our capacity, our ability right now to actually provide the benefit that these kind mother sentient beings need. I know for myself, I'm quite limited in what I can do. And so we generate the aspiration. Let's generate the aspiration to be able to aim for full awakening, a fully omniscient mind, completely purified of all obscurations and hindrances, imprints, completely developed in wisdom and compassion and our ability to benefit beings. So let's cultivate that bodhicitta motivation now as we begin to honor the Buddha with our Shakyamuni Buddha practice tonight. So let's begin by thinking of the qualities of infinite love and great compassion, unbiased compassion, expansive wisdom, and skillful means, and other wonderful qualities that we aspire to develop in our Dharma practice. Maybe thinking of the 6 perfections: generosity and patience, joyous effort, concentration, wisdom, fearlessness. Think of all the qualities that you aspire to develop. And just imagine what it would feel like to have those qualities right now. Try to get a sense of the expansiveness and peace of having a wise and kind heart that reaches out impartially to work for the benefit of all beings, effortlessly, spontaneously. So we can imagine that those qualities of love and compassion, wisdom, skillful means, and so forth now appear in the physical form of Buddha Shakyamuni in the space in front of us. We imagine him sitting on a throne made of radiant light, above which is an open lotus, a lotus flower, and cushions of sun and moon disk representing the foundation of his practice, the three principal aspects of the path. And his body is made of radiant, transparent light, as is the entire visualization. His body is golden, and he wears the robes of a monastic, symbolizing his deep commitment to ethics, his perfection of ethics. His right palm rests on his right knee in the earth-touching pose, and his left is in his lap, holding an alms bowl full of nectar, which is the medicine to cure our afflictions and other hindrances. And the Buddha's face is very beautiful. He's smiling. He has a compassionate gaze looking at us and all beings with complete acceptance. And also looking at all sentient beings with this loving acceptance. He understands our predicament, being controlled by karma and afflictions. He also clearly sees our full potential. And so imagine rays of light emanating from every pore of his body, reaching out into all the corners of the universe, benefiting sentient beings. So we can leave our visualization in this simple form, or we can imagine more elaborately that the Buddha is surrounded by the entire lineage of spiritual teachers, all the meditational deities, countless other Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Arhats, Dakas, Dakinis, and Dharma protectors. And we can imagine that to the side of them are elegant tables where volumes of the scriptures are arranged. And surrounding us are all sentient beings appearing in human form, with our mother of this life on our left, the father of this life on our right. And particularly thinking of any people we currently find challenging or difficult, we imagine them right in front of us so that we place them in the Buddha's care. And so to cultivate a sense of refuge in our mind, then first we think of the dangers of cyclic existence by reflecting on our own lack of security and dissatisfaction. We're subjected to all the different levels of suffering. And with compassion, we think of all the other sentient beings who, like us, flounder in cyclic existence, and we wish to benefit them. We also think of the wonderful qualities of the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha, and generate a sense of confidence in their ability to guide us from these constantly recurring problems in cyclic existence. They have purified their minds completely of all stains and obscurations. They have developed wisdom to its utmost limit. So we can feel great trust and confidence in the three jewels, opening our hearts to them, relying on them to guide us and all sentient beings from the terrors of cyclic existence to the peace of liberation and full awakening. So as we recite the refuge formula, we can imagine radiant light flowing from the Buddhas, spiritual mentors, all the bodhisattvas and other holy beings into us and all the beings around us. Namo Guruvya, Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Nama Sangaya. Namo Gurubhya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Dharmaya. Nama Sangaya. Namo Gurubhya. Namo Buddhaya. Namo Nama Sangaya. Feel that you and all others have come under the protection of the three jewels. And so to help us generate a heart of bodhicitta, or build on our heart of bodhicitta, now we turn our thoughts to think about others, contemplating on how much we depend on others for everything we enjoy and know in our lives. And this is very easy to do here at the Abbey because everything that we utilize here, are the buildings that we live in, the food that we eat, the clothes we wear, the medicine, all the things that we use to propagate the Dharma, all of these come from the kindness of others. All of these have been donated by the kindness of our sponsors. But it's similar for all other living beings too. All the things that we rely on to make our lives convenient and comfortable, useful, and enjoy, all of these things come from the efforts of others, even if they weren't intentionally created for us. In the same way, our knowledge, our talents, our good qualities, all of these have been developed due to the kindness of others. And even our ability to practice the Dharma and gain realizations, all of this depends on the kindness of countless living beings. Buddha Shakyamuni, all of his early disciples, all of the lineage lamas who have protected and preserved these teachings, actualize them in their own minds. All the teachers that we rely on, let's not take them for granted. His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Venerable Thubten Chonyi, and all the others that we rely on for our Dharma education and for their example in our lives. And just as our strongest wish, our innate wish throughout the day is to be free of suffering and to have happiness and convenience, well-being in all that we do, the same is true of all other living beings. But we are all the same in that we encounter sufferings and problems in our lives, and often the difficulties of others are so much worse than our own. So at this time, we really check up to see what is our capacity to help them. And as I mentioned earlier, probably for most of us, it's quite limited. But if we sincerely engage in our practice, we reduce our ignorance and anger, attachment, arrogance, jealousy, self-centered attitude, and increase our good qualities, all the good qualities, all the 6 perfections, our loving kindness, our compassion. If we become fully awakened, then we'll be of the greatest possible benefit to these beings. So we generate this altruistic intention to become a Buddha in order to benefit all living beings most effectively. So again, as we recite the Refuge and Bodhicitta prayer, imagine that much light and nectar flow into us from the Buddhas and other holy beings, and into all the sentient beings around us as well. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha. by the merit I create by engaging in generosity, and the other far-reaching practices I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, and the Sangha, by the merit I create by engaging in generosity, and the other far-reaching practices I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. I take refuge until I have awakened in the Buddhas, the Dharma, Sangha, by the merit I create by engaging in generosity, and the other far-reaching practices I will attain Buddhahood in order to benefit all sentient beings. So really imagine that the Buddha is very pleased with our altruistic intention, and that a replica emerges from him and comes to the crown of our head, melts into golden radiant light that flows into each one of us and the beings around us, and that we and the Buddha become completely inseparable. Our body, speech, and mind are completely one with the Buddha's body, speech, and mind, that our mind has been inspired and transformed. Let go of any self-centeredness or egotistic thoughts that you have about yourself, and particularly let go of any limiting self-denigrating thoughts and concepts of inherent existence, and just take a moment to meditate on whatever understanding you have of emptiness, dependent arising. And imagine that at our heart appears a small Buddha image made of light, radiating the light of wisdom and compassion in all directions throughout the entire universe, touching every living being, blessing their mind, transforming their mind, and transforming all these sentient beings into Buddhas, and all environments into the most conducive Pure Lands for practice. Of course, all this is just at the level of our imagination, and so we can take some time with the four immeasurables to generate the causes we actually need to bring about our own Buddha nature. So we'll recite the four immeasurables and then pause at the end to really cultivate one in your mind now, thinking of it in terms of a friend or a family member, a stranger, someone you know but don't really, someone you've seen but you don't really know much about them, someone specific, and also maybe call to mind someone you're currently finding challenging or difficult, applying one of the four immeasurables to them, really transforming your mind. May all sentient beings have happiness and its causes. May all sentient beings be free of suffering and its causes. May all sentient beings not be separated from sorrowless bliss. May all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. We'll continue reading through the 7-limb prayer slowly so that we can imagine doing each of the limbs, and we'll pause with the limb of rejoicing. Reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind, and present clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. I confess all my destructive actions accumulated since beginningless time, and rejoice in the virtues of all holy and ordinary beings. So I invite you to just take a moment to rejoice in our own good qualities, qualities that we've developed through our Dharma practice, qualities that we naturally embody. Really rejoicing, being happy that we have those qualities, that we're developing them more and more. We can also rejoice in the kindness and the good qualities of all other ordinary beings, all the simple acts of kindness that happen every day, all the beautiful acts of kindness that have come to the fore during the pandemic, during the racial injustice protests, those who are acting selflessly to promote awareness about climate change. Really rejoicing, taking delight in all the genuine kindness. Also rejoicing in the good qualities of our teachers. So thinking specifically of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, Venerable Children, all the other teachers you personally rely on, really noticing, acknowledging, rejoicing, delighting in their good qualities and how they've influenced our lives. We can also rejoice in the good qualities of all the Arya beings, understanding the importance of wisdom, realizing emptiness in our practice, in the Dharma practice in general. Really rejoicing in those who have cultivated direct perception of emptiness. Rejoicing in the qualities of the bodhisattvas of all different levels and the perfect Buddhas, thinking of their every moment of objectless compassion, profound wisdom, enlightened activities. And we'll continue with our 7 limbs. Please remain until cyclic existence ends and turn the wheel of Dharma for sentient beings. I dedicate all the virtues of myself and others to the Great Awakening. So then we'll offer the mandala with a heartfelt wish to offer everything in the universe in order to continue receiving Dharma teachings and to develop realizations of them in our mind stream. We imagine offering the entire universe and everything beautiful in it, respectfully offering it to the merit field, transforming it into the most sublime offerings, even offering all the things and people that we're attached to. This ground anointed with perfume, flowers strewn Mount Meru, for land, sun, and moon, imagined as a Buddha land and offered to you. May all beings enjoy this pure land. The objects of attachment, aversion, and ignorance, friends, enemies, and strangers, my body, wealth, and enjoyments, I offer these without any sense of loss. Please accept them with pleasure and inspire me and others to be free from the three poisonous attitudes. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niyatayami. So imagine all the beings in the merit field receive our offerings with great delight. To progress along the path and develop realizations of the path to awakening, we need the inspiration of the lineage of spiritual mentors, and especially our principal teachers or root gurus, the one who has touched our hearts so personally, so tenderly, so deeply with the Dharma. So we can imagine that a replica of our teacher comes to the crown of our head in the aspect of Buddha Shakyamuni, facing the same direction, and acts as an advocate for us in requesting inspiration from the entire merit field. As we make our requests to the lineage teachers, glorious and precious root guru, sit upon the lotus and moon seat on my crown, guiding me with your great kindness. Bestow upon me the attainments of your body, speech, and mind, the eyes through whom the vast scriptures are seen, supreme doors for the fortunate who would cross over to spiritual freedom, illuminators whose wise means vibrate with compassion. To the entire line of spiritual mentors, I make request. So just before we do our mantra recitation, just take a moment to stabilize, do a little stabilizing meditation on the Buddha's qualities and features, bringing that visualization clearly to mind in all, whatever detail you can manage. Really feel that you're in the presence of Buddha Shakyamuni this evening. And then imagine that all the figures in the field of merit melt into light and dissolve into the Buddha in front of you. And as the embodiment of the three jewels, the Buddha now absorbs into the Buddha on your crown. And as we recite the Buddha's mantra, imagine that much white light flows from the Buddha into you, all the beings around you, purifying all negativities and obscurations, and generating within you all the realizations of the stages of the path. So we'll recite the Buddha's mantra together 21 times, and then we'll spend a few minutes reciting the mantra silently. Tayata o mune mune maha mune soha. Tayata o mune mune Mahamuneye Soha. Tayata Om 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 Mune Mune Maha. Om Muni Muni Mahamuni Soha. So imagine the Buddha on the crown of your head melts into light and dissolves into you, and that your body, speech, and mind become inseparable from the Buddha's body, speech, and mind. We can rejoice that we've made a strong connection with our fundamental teacher here on Vesak 2021. And we've planted some seeds of virtue for full awakening, so we can rejoice in that. And then we can dedicate. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Bodhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezi, may you stay until samsara ends.
Thank you, Venerable Supple. So maybe just to express our gratitude for the teachings, we will all rise and we'll make 3 prostrations in gratitude for the teachings, and then I'll invite Venerable Chonyi to come up, and she'll be giving the Dharma talk tonight. So let's all rise, and then people at home, you can rise as well.
So Vesak greetings to everyone. The 37 practices of Bodhisattvas, which we recite here at the Abbey weekly. There's a verse that says, when you rely on them, your faults come to an end, and your good qualities grow like the waxing moon. Cherish spiritual teachers even more than your own body. This is the practice of Bodhisattvas. And so on Vesak Day, we celebrate and it is a celebration. We celebrate or commemorate that the Buddha came to this world, in this body, in this time, that he taught the Dharma, that he manifested the appearance of becoming completely awakened, even though from the Mahayana perspective, he was already awakened at the time when he came to earth. They came with the intention to guide us to full awakening. And we also commemorate the fact that he passed away, leaving this body and going into nirvana or full Buddhahood. The story goes that, and I'm sure you're familiar with the Buddha's life story, I won't take the time to do that, but the story goes that he, in this life, he was an ordinary being. Whether we accept the story from the Pali perspective, that he did enter this life as an ordinary being and became fully awakened at that time, or we accept the story from the Mahayana perspective, that he was indeed already fully awakened and then manifested as an ordinary being to teach us the way. Either way, before the moment of the Buddha's full awakening, he had uncountable births, one after another, after another, after another. And he told those stories that are recorded in the scriptures even still, as he recalled his previous lives. Compelled by what? By compassion, they say. That on the basis of his compassion for living beings, he pursued the path to full awakening in order to be able to tell us how to do that. So the story goes, this is the part that I want to talk about. At the time that the Buddha achieved full awakening under the Bodhi tree in Bodh Gaya, it is said that he awoke the next day and realized this Dharma is profound. I don't know that anyone here can understand this. And he had to pause and think. They say the thought was, should I even teach? And fortunately for us, as the story goes, Brahma and the earth goddess and several beings persuaded the Buddha that there were beings on this planet at that time who had the capacity to hear and understand what he had to say. And so he began to teach, and he taught for 45 years. So what was so profound that the Buddha had to teach that he wasn't sure we would understand? You know, as we read the scriptures, you see that he taught to everybody who came to him. He spoke directly to their need. And in some cases, he talked about how important it was to live a fruitful life in your relationship or in your family. How important it was to be able to have a peaceful mind in relationship to the people around you and in your community. How to practice generosity. He taught those things. But the real pith of the Buddha's teaching was to help us understand that the way we perceive reality is mistaken. And that our mistaken view is what keeps us on the Dharma, on the wheel, not the Dharma wheel, on the wheel of cyclic existence, returning again and again and again because of our basic misapprehension of the nature of reality. If that were an easy thing to perceive, to understand, there would be no big deal that the Buddha came to the earth. It would be no big deal that the Buddha taught. But this is profoundly difficult to understand, but totally possible for every single living being that has a mind. That's every one of us. Has a mind that has the capacity to slowly, slowly overcome our erroneous view. Slowly, slowly overcome the things that we do that obscure our mind from understanding this, and to come to a state of full awakening in the same way that the Buddha did. Now, how do we know that? Because in the Buddha's time, enough of his disciples followed the path and realized it. And then they taught. And enough of those disciples realized the path and they taught. And enough of those disciples realized the path and they taught. Generation after generation after generation after generation. So we are here today celebrating the Buddha, celebrating the Buddha's teachings only on the basis of the fact that there are living beings who have committed themselves to deeply understanding that thing that the Buddha was not sure anybody would get. That very thing that is so difficult to penetrate and that can transform our minds completely. And the preciousness of those who hold that, who live their lives in order to understand that, who focus the entire intention of their being to manifest that, if not in this life, the next one, and the next one, and the next one, and the next one. It is on the basis of those teachers that we're even able to sit here today and celebrate the Buddha's birth, parinirvana, and full awakening. And so what an amazing, really, when we celebrate Vesak and we celebrate what the Buddha has brought to us, we also have to, I believe, we have to look at the entire lineage that has brought us to this moment. Whoever we were in the past that learned from those teachers, that had the karma to meet these teachings again in this life. Who knows who we were or where we were, but here we are now in this world where if you look around, the subtle understanding of the nature of reality is not on the minds of most people. Would you agree? We're not thinking about that. And yet, because there are beings who have, who do, and who still teach, we have the opportunity to deepen that ourselves. So as we look at Vesak Day today, I want to talk just a little bit about how to rely on a spiritual mentor. Because first we need to seek a spiritual mentor. In our do-it-yourself world, we could pretty much think that, I can Google this, enlightenment. Let's see, let me actually do that right now. Enlightenment. I would not be surprised if I could come up with a list, like a path or a direction or an app. Oh, an enlightenment app. No problem. Easy to find. And we think that's practice, right? We think that's Dharma. We think that's going to lead us to awakening. And it's possible. I think those apps, people have a lot of, they get a lot from them. They relax. They learn to chill out. Well, the Buddha wasn't teaching us to chill out. The Buddha was actually teaching us how to cultivate our love, our compassion, and our profound wisdom to understand the nature of reality so that we can get off the wheel of cyclic existence, work for the benefit of all other living beings to get off the wheel. And we don't do that with an app. We do that by relying on our spiritual mentors. So first of all, we look for the qualities of a spiritual mentor, that someone who's really qualified to lead us, someone who has impeccable ethical conduct based on the Buddha's teaching, who has stabilization of mind, who has some understanding of the nature of reality itself and confidence in the capacity to realize it, if not having the realization itself. Someone who can teach that to us in an unmistaken way, so that we too can have the imprints that someday, maybe you already have it, I don't, will have the realization and that understanding as well. We need someone as a teacher who has vast and deep knowledge of the scriptures, someone who has joy and enthusiasm to teach, really loves imparting the Dharma, and can express those teachings clearly. We need a teacher who has loving concern and compassion for their students, and the patience and the willingness to undergo all the difficulties of guiding those students, even if it means creating uncomfortable situations for those students to thrive in, to rise to work with. So just finding a spiritual mentor with those qualities, with a portion of those qualities in this world, in this day and age, amazing. If we found it, rely on them, cherish spiritual teachers even more than your own body. If we haven't found it and we genuinely have the spiritual aspiration, then we make prayers, generate merit, and we seek such a teacher. That's our job. To really understand what the Buddha taught, we need somebody that can really teach us what the Buddha taught. And then we rely on the teacher in a correct way. When we do that, we learn the teachings correctly ourselves. When we do that, learning the teachings correctly, we learn to practice them correctly. When we learn to practice them correctly, then we create the causes to be able to continue along the path. It takes us out of the potential for lower rebirth. It brings us to the greater potential for being able to continue life after life to practice. And I think very importantly for us, when we create those causes, we also are knitting the relationship to be able to have spiritual teachers in the future, without whom we have no Buddha, without whom we don't even know who the Buddha is. The Buddha relied on spiritual teachers in order to become Buddha himself. And the Buddha's teachings live on. In the scriptures, yes. In the text, yes. But you pick up even those books, we don't get it. We need a teacher to guide us. If we don't rely on the spiritual teacher, we're stuck in cyclic existence. We've been here for a very long time. Maybe that's fine with you. But as we study the Buddha's teachings, we begin to realize that this is not, we don't have to be here. We can work to realize the steps along the path and come to awakening. So we develop the capacity to rely on our spiritual teachers by developing faith and confidence in them. How do we do that? We remember their qualities. We think again and again and again about the role a teacher plays in our life. We think again and again and again about what we have learned. Like, no matter where you are with the Buddha Dharma, maybe today is the first time you ever heard of it. For most people probably listening to this, I would say not. But if we think about, where would I be? Where would I be if I had not met this teacher? Where would I be if the Buddha had never taught? Where would the world be, actually? I mean, that's a really big thing to think about. And so it's so easy to forget. It's so easy to think I did this all by myself. Or it's so easy to think that my teachers will always be here. Or it's so easy to think that, well, I can put this off for right now. They'll still be around when I stick around when I have time. I was remembering a story of someone I knew who was so intent that on the day he retired, he was going to go live with his lama. He'd been working his whole life, putting it off, saving his money. Very shortly before his retirement, he developed a debilitating disease and was no longer able to practice. Such a teaching. Like, I'm not saying that he should have given up his job sooner, but that we put it off. The example is that we put it off. That teacher will always be there, or I will always have the opportunity to receive teachings. I've always had opportunities to receive teachings. I live in a monastery. I'm always going to get teachings. Well, that's not the teaching tonight. The teaching tonight is that we cannot, or we can take our teachers for granted. We can easily take our teachers for granted, and we can do it at our own cost, something that we'll lose. So we think of what? Our teacher teaches exactly what the Buddha would teach if the Buddha were here. Exactly. We know that because we've examined our qualities. We've examined their qualities. We examine how they live their lives. Is this person dedicated to apps? No. Is this person committed to making sure they get ice cream on their birthday? No. Is this person committed to anything beyond full awakening for her or himself? And the wish for the students to receive the same? Nothing. Nothing else than that. That's when you know you have a qualified teacher. And so we develop gratitude and respect by thinking of their kindness. So I didn't have the fortune to be born at the time of the Buddha that I know of. I might have been a flea in the sand, in the dirt somewhere around India, who knows. I certainly did not have the fortune or the karma to be a disciple of the Buddha. I don't know how many times I've had that opportunity to be a disciple of someone, but enough that I've created the causes to be able to meet the Dharma in this life. As a friend I know who talks about if we need to think about sending a present to ourselves in our future lives, that present would be creating the causes to meet teachers in the future. So we practice rely on our teachers by our thoughts, by thinking of their kindness, by developing gratitude, developing respect, and then we also rely on our teachers by service, physically, offering our service, and most importantly, offering our practice. So that we make sure that in our daily lives we practice that which has been given to us. Why? So we can become like the Buddha. It's not like the Buddha is somewhere out there, something that is some magical phenomenon that existed only in that one time. The Buddha came to teach us how to become Buddha. That was his purpose, and that's our teacher's purpose. And when we think about developing our ethical conduct, why? So that we start creating the causes to stop being reborn in the lower realms and to be able to we're born where we can meet the teachings again and again and again. We practice developing bodhicitta so that we can expand our heart, expand our habit so that we're working solely for the benefit of others to the point that we also have enough merit to develop the wisdom that the Buddha was trying to impart about the nature of reality itself, so that we realize and overcome the misapprehension we have that drives us in the wrong direction again and again and again, no matter how hard we try. So just this once, they say, just this once we have this life where we have the opportunity to practice. So on this Vesak day, on this time when we are celebrating that the Buddha came into the world, celebrating that the Buddha achieved awakening, manifested that in this life, and then also parted Because one of the first words and the last words the Buddha said to us, all things are impermanent. Everything that comes together will separate. Everything that rises will fall. Our teacher will not always be here. Our teachers will not always be here. And we can take the mantle to be able to carry it forward if we practice as they teach. So, on this Vesak day, tomorrow it's in North America. For folks in Asia, it's tonight. It's already, our tonight is already your tomorrow. It's already Vesak day. To really spend time doing the practices that are outlined on our website, meditating on the Buddha, making offerings, rejoicing, celebrating, not as a party, but as an understanding that this crazy world can actually be transformed. Not by changing it, but by transforming our own minds. And the Buddha taught how to do it. And our teachers give us the method in the doses that we can take, right? But we have to do the work. It's not like Buddha can just go, poof. We are the ones that have to come to change our own minds. Only we can do it. So one by one life at a time, we grow our compassion, we grow our love, we grow our bodhicitta, we grow our wisdom, until we too are Buddha. That's the image to hold as we celebrate Vesak together today. So let's dedicate the merit again. And dedicate all of that merit that we may never be separated from teachers and teachings. Dedicate that merit that all living beings will have the opportunity to meet qualified spiritual mentors, will have the karma to recognize them, will follow them with diligence and humility, and will be able to practice as well. So that this potential, it's so buried in our mind, do not look for Buddhahood elsewhere. It is in our minds, but it needs to be guided by those. And so may we be guided, and may we become authentic guides that can do the same for others. Due to this merit, may we soon attain the awakened state of Guru Buddha, that we may be able to liberate all sentient beings from their suffering. May the precious Buddhi mind, not yet born, arise and grow. May that born have no decline, but increase forevermore. In the snowy mountain pure land, you're the source of good and happiness. Powerful Tenzin Gyatso Chenrezi, may you stay until samsara ends. May the spiritual teachers who lead me on the sacred path, and all spiritual friends who practice it, have long life. May I pacify completely all outer and inner hindrances. Grant such inspiration, I pray. May the lives of the venerable spiritual mentors be stable, and their virtuous actions spread in the 10 directions. May the light of Lobsang's teachings dispelling the darkness of the beings in the 3 worlds always increase. Fearless Supreme Spiritual Leader, omniscient King of the Shakyas, Motherly Tara, Supreme Bestower of longevity and wisdom, vast ocean assembly of sources of refuge, grant propitiousness here and now for a nectar of benefit and bliss to flow. With a clear mind of extensive learning gained from following the wondrous traditions of Thubten, the able one's teachings, you bring clarity to masses of disciples with the light of Chudrika, the lamp of the Dharma. May your lotus feet remain unfaltering for a very long time. Through your dharmic deeds of hearing, thinking, meditating, and so on, place those who seek the liberated path in harmony through immaculate discipline. Please lead all beings to liberation with undeclining excellent qualities of scripture and insight.
and establish them in the glory of eternal bliss.
May the deeds of
Explaining and practicing the Dharma, done by groups supporting the teachings and their upholders, who spread the view of dependent arising and non-violent actions in the 10 directions, and especially at Sravasti Abbey in the west. Oh.